Well, we were thinking about having a break this week, but quite honestly, we've been going pretty hard at it for the last 3 or 4. But Freo finally came to the party and got rid of Ross Lyon, so we do have to come back for the Variety Hour podcast, the special 14 Coaches Left edition. I'm Sergio Paradise, and I'm joined once again by George Pell's QC, Titus O'Reilly.
We're recording this just as we found the appeal.
You've had a good morning.
Oh, well, we can have a... I think people tune into us to hear topics like George Pell's appeal. Yeah. I think, they love it when we talk politics, legal issues,
religion, they're all our specialties.
Is it a shock to you that a Catholic priest has been found guilty of this?
No, it's not. It is a bit of a shock that he lost his appeal. I just had a feeling it's one of those ones that's gone on for that long, and he's got such a high-powered legal team.
Yeah.
It would not have all surprised me if the appeal had been successful.
Yeah.
And I think he was planning on doing the sort of walkout onto the street in Melbourne, with the...
it would have been a
huge story if he'd walked out, but no, he's just done the long and lonely walk back to the truck that takes him back to his cell.
If I was talking to him, I'd say the one benefit he has is being in jail. He's can't end up Freo coach, so he's dodged a bullet there. Because that's the job. We'll talk a bit about Ross in a sec, but that's the people talk about Ross being zapped, but the real danger is someone out there is going to end up Freo coach.
Oh, exactly. But as far as Cardinal George Pell's concerned, St Kilda job's still there. St Kilda's still available.
That's true. Well, you know what? It's a bit like I say Ross leaving. It's a bit like when Jupiter nudges a body out of the asteroid belt and sends it hurtling towards the inner planets. Yeah. And you wonder, God, which one's it going to hit? And I feel a bit like that. Some guy out there is going to get the Freo kick.
Now, did you get a hell of a shock yesterday morning with the Ross Lyon thing? It's sort of... I mean, we, of course, are based in Melbourne, and everyone here, it seemed to be like, geez, that came out of nowhere. Whereas I was talking to a mate from Perth last night, and he was going, it's not that big a shock.
No, I didn't think...
here.
I'd spoken to a lot of people in Perth, and I've been over in Perth a couple of times this year, so I have a kind of a sense that I knew the Freo fans were fed up. I knew that last year, actually, because when I did a show in Perth last year, I'm talking to a bunch of Freo fans afterwards, and they were all, like, really over it. And I thought, well, if he doesn't get them back into the finals this year, he's going to be in real trouble. Yeah. The one thing I thought probably is the money that they have to pay him. What is it, like $600,000? I think is the
600
and change. I think
and bonuses for finals. And of course, he won't have the opportunity to take him to a final next year. So he's still going to have to be paid some of that potential bonus.
Yeah, so that's the one thing. I mean, this is the case with a lot of people are saying, I mean, the funniest thing I find, well, not funny, it's true. Like, we had one of our listeners point this out the other week. And I said it lingered at the time of how many clubs have sacked coaches this year that have finished above Melbourne on the ladder. And here's another.
Just add another one to the list.
4, I think it is 4. Now. So it's Carlton, St Kilda, Freo, and
North
Melbourne have all sacked their coaches, yet they've all arguably had better or have.
And there's still whispers that there's another one, maybe 2, out of Adelaide.
Well, you'd have to look at. I mean, I think Pike and Hinkley are massively in danger.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You look at all of that, and you go, there's a few, and Lee and Cameron, I reckon. If the Giants bomb out of the finals and the way they've been playing is highly possible.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to wonder about Lee and Cameron. But the reason
they were appalling on the weekend.
The reason Goodwin's not under the pressure the others are, I think he is, but not in the same media focus as, because they extended him in March for 3 years. Yeah. They can't afford to sack him.
No, Melbourne
that's
can't afford to do that.
That's the real reason he's skating through. And I reckon, because he got them to a prelim last year, you can have two views of this, right? He got to them to the prelim, and then this season was really disrupted and hit hard by injuries, and you got to give him the chance to earn it back next year. Yeah, but
I'll tell you what, he'd want to.
Well, he has to
get a few on the board.
Well, that's what I was. They start zipping forward at the start of next year, and the pressure's going to be
right on
the board and him, right, because of the extension. But I look at it, and you could argue. One argument is Goodwin skated through off Roos's work last year, and now we're seeing that it's in enormous trouble or not. With Lyon, I just felt like I think Lyon's whole approach is just, it's old school and doesn't work. Like they regularly. I said this week that Freo couldn't score if they were The Bachelor.
Yeah.
They just don't ever score.
Yeah.
I mean, they drafted Hogan and all these guys earlier in the year. I know some of them have been injured and stuff, but Lyons had years to fix this.
Exactly.
And he didn't score a lot when he had Rewalt and Pavlich.
Yeah.
At St Kilda and Freo.
It goes back to, remember, the Swans, when Paul Roos was still coaching them, and he sort of introduced that defensive mindset. That, we don't have to score 20 goals a game as long as we keep our opposition to minor score. But Ross Lyon has never really got beyond that.
No, he did. And the thing too is, it's so hard to keep a team, like when you're only scoring 50 or 60 points a game, which Freo regularly do. Even if you're a great defensive side, very hard to keep the other side. I mean, I get what he means. He doesn't have teams rack up like 100 points all the time and all that. So that's fine. But, there's no point in being... I know percentage matters in the AFL, but I remember Alex Ferguson used to say, when he was coaching United, if they were down, say, 2-0 and there was 10 minutes to go, he said, what does it matter if you lose 4-0?
Yep.
I just throw everything at it then. Yeah. Like I do all out attacking. And that's what he used to do. And that's why they often used to pinch it late. Yeah. And there's this mindset with Ross is the reverse of that. I would prefer to finish 2-0 and not give up a 4-0, in soccer. But, he'd prefer to have they score 68 and they get beaten by, the other team scores 80 points than to lose 120 to 60 or something. He just doesn't let the game get away, but he never wins.
And that's the other interesting thing about Ross Lyon. Is his game plan and game style is very old hat. But he appeared for many years that his personal sort of relationship with his players was very much old hat as well.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the Freo players are, suggesting he's mellowed and smoothed out a bit. And funnily enough, a lot of the old St Kilda players swear by him still.
Yeah. Well, Sydney still swear by him. They say he was a great coach and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, I just don't think, he's had a long time to prove himself. That's where it really comes down to. And they're not improving.
So is Ross Lyon, is he going to bob up anywhere next year, or is he just going straight to Harvard Business School?
Melbourne.
Oh, God.
I've had a lot of people say, if he ends up in Melbourne, and I'm like, I don't know. The thing about Ross is I don't think he's an incompetent coach.
No.
I think he's more average than, I think he's above average, but he's not way above average. Do you know what I mean? I think he knows how to be competitive and all that sort of stuff. But
when he took St Kilda to those grand finals, he was working off a pretty strong list.
Well, I've always argued that the fact St Kilda came through the Grant Thomas years and the Ross Lyon years and I know they got incredibly close under Ross Lyon. I think he's a way better coach than Grant Thomas. But that list, I reckon that they should have won a couple of grand finals.
You look at it.
Going back to the Grant Thomas years too.
Nick Rewald at centre half forward. You even had and Goddard running around and Kaczynski and
it was a great
Stephen
list.
Milne in the forward pocket, one of the great small forwards of all time.
They had everything. I've long thought they wasted a lot of time with Grant Thomas.
Yeah. Ozzie
and then
Jones.
I thought they made the switch to Ross Lyon.
Steve Baker, who was just the nasty one.
Yeah, and they had the size and the strength, and they had that element of nastiness. I do really believe. I think Grant Thomas was a huge mistake, and I think they got to Ross. Probably got him he could have won one if the ball had bounced a bit different. He got him very close. But I think if he'd brought him in a little bit earlier, But the fact they managed to get through that whole period and not win one.
Yeah.
A bit unlucky too.
They were unlucky, but it's got St Kilda written all over it too.
But So anyway, I know a lot of Freo fans are thrilled. I know there's a few that are. Now the problem is getting someone else.
Yeah, who are they going to get? And whatever they do with a new coach, it's going to take them a while to gel with the players and this and that. So you can't expect them to hit back next year.
That said, though, I think they've bobbed along being very close to finals the last couple of years, and I think I
had a couple of ripping wins this year.
Yeah, I reckon they could actually, if a coach gets in there, and you see what a change of coach does, like with Teague at Carlton. So I see something like that come in, and I think that could actually be the difference.
Yeah,
they get a coach that the players love and stuff. There's talent on that list. It's not a complete train.
They're going to lose Hill and Langdon.
A lot of that, I reckon, is why they moved on Lyon, because there was all these players wanting to go, and they wanted to go because of Lyon. Ted Tingley wrote in, the Dockers are paying out $600K to get rid of Lyon. Should he see if he can get them up to 7 figures?
It's not an auction, Ted.
Ross does like getting paid, so I can see that happening. Johans wrote in, as a Freo fan, I'm fearing spending a bit of time in football purgatory. As a Melbourne fan, can you tell me what the dress code there is? Just a nice blazer.
Yeah. And maybe an old boy's tie.
In fairness, it's not an accurate question because Melbourne fans aren't in football purgatory.
No.
We're in football hell.
Yeah.
They've been for quite some time.
Yeah, purgatory is sort of just a word that isn't strong enough.
North are more in purgatory. They sort of bob around the middle of the table.
Yeah.
Melbourne just...
we're in hell. We've been consumed by fire.
Atty wrote in, are Carlton fans lucky Teague was appointed last week? Talk about dodging a bullet.
Yes. Atty suggesting there that possibly Ross Lyon would have been available for Carlton.
Well, imagine
I couldn't see him fitting in at Carlton.
You don't reckon? They love an old experienced coach at Carlton, though.
No.
I think Carlton fans have to be absolutely congratulated for forcing Teague in there.
Yeah, look, to their credit. And one thing I know it's completely irrelevant, but just he looks young and fresh, and he's David Teague. I reckon he makes Carlton Footy Club look better.
Yeah,
which is a silly thing to say, but apart from the fact that he's obviously the players love him.
Well, I do worry he knows what he's doing, which is going to be terrible.
Which will be disappointing.
The minute Patrick Cripps came out and said he wanted Teague. That's when I knew. I thought, they cannot. I mean,
if you're the president or a board member, how are you going to override the opinion of Cripps?
Who's the best player in the comp? I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon he should win the Brownlow.
He'll give it a shake.
Well, I mean, even when he probably won't pick up as many votes when they were losing so much. But even in those losing games, he was
their best player.
He was by a mile,
and he won't be losing too many votes to his teammates.
No.
Which sometimes happens in good sides where you've got 3 superstars or something. They haven't got him.
Ridiculous. He's a ridiculous player. He's so good. And everything he can do. And it doesn't matter if... he's a great player because they were... when everyone was playing badly and he was being tagged and everything, he still would get 30-plus possessions and often get a couple of goals. And he gets
double-teamed every time he's off the ball.
And and the stuff he gets done to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I don't get. If the AFL really wanted to focus on things, all that stuff where players are held behind the ball and all that sort of stuff, that's where actually a lot of the problems come from.
Yeah.
Because if you let Cripps just run at the ball or players like that, the clearances would be a lot quicker.
I mean, that's what, that's the problem at Melbourne. They just let their good players from the opposition just run amok.
Yeah. Bob Shiraz. That's a good name.
Bob Shiraz. That is a good name.
I hope it's real.
It's not Heathcote Shiraz from Sizzletown, is it?
Will they have to reinstall goalposts at Fremantle's training venues now that Ross is gone?
I think Bob's pretty au fait with the Ross Lyon lack of scoring there.
Adrian March said, how many buckets of Corona will Serge need to survive a live podcast? And we should say we've got our live podcast this Sunday at the Comics Lounge, and the appointment of Ross Lyon as Melbourne Director of Coaching in the same week.
Oh, Adrian, I may not get out of the Comics Lounge on Sunday. I might just sit there. Another bucket, thanks.
Are you going to be drinking a few Coronas during the live podcast?
Oh, yeah. I'll probably stay off them for most of the show. And might have a couple afterwards.
That'll be a new development. Gary Stone said, did Ross get all defensive when he was told he was getting the sack?
Very clever question, Gary. I like that.
Nick Reed said, should Ross's new coaching philosophy be you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become Mark Harvey? You got to say, there are certain coaches.
Mark Harvey, yeah.
There are two coaches this year. So even when Bolton got sacked, I didn't feel like Carlton fans were glad to see him go, but I didn't feel like there was a hatred towards him, really.
No,
right?
There was, if anything, there was sort of a calm affection towards him, and they half felt sorry for him.
And Alan Richardson, I think, is the same. I don't feel like there was a hatred of Alan Richardson. It was more like, we don't think this is probably working. But Brad Scott and Ross Lyon, the joy amongst some people that they got sacked. Yeah. And I'm talking like not fans. I'm talking like people in the media and former teammates and former players. You know, like Ross had a few people tweet out things of saying, this is great, basically. There's a lot of ill will towards those two.
Oh, exactly.
Now, we should mention Steve Smith. This is the other big story.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Smith out of the third test.
Now, did you see this the other night? Were you watching when he got knocked? Yeah, so was I. And, I hadn't watched a lot of the cricket. It was flicking back and forth.
Because it's been a great Ashes series.
Oh, it has.
Like the first test was amazing. I mean, not only did we win, but that first night you thought Australia were out of it.
But even the second test, even though it was nearly half of it was washed out, it turned into a ripping contest at the end. But I was watching when it saw Steve Smith go down and stretched out on the field. It was not a good look.
Nah.
And then especially when you saw the slow-mo replay and you saw the ball hit him fair and square right in the back of the neck.
It was a brutal like contest, that whole thing. You couldn't go to bed. You had to watch it. No, I
had to watch it. And then, and then when he came back, he didn't look right.
They say it's delayed concussion.
Yeah.
I would have liked it to be delayed till after the fifth test.
Yeah.
That would make a lot more sense. It might have we just walked off a concussion.
Oh, exactly.
Some of our best podcasts have been done while concussed.
Well, not even delayed. Well, on fully concussed.
Active concussion. It does. It is a worry because people are saying, well, Steve Smith's out. Really, our batting lineup is out.
Well, that's right. I mean, the next test starts in a day or two. And, without Steve Smith, it's hard to imagine us making enough runs. Where you got Jofra Archer's going to be, he's got his tail up now.
Well, and
Dave Warner can't buy a run. Bancroft can't buy a run.
Yeah.
Kawaja's good for 30 at best.
Kawaja's look, it's the age-old problem. Like, Kawaja's not really doing great. Warner's not doing great, but there's not a lot of depth anymore.
Yeah, who else are you going to bring in?
It's not like there's a pile of great players. Justin Anderson wrote in, do we have enough time to crowdfund and install a rain-making machine in Leeds by Thursday? That might be the only thing. That might be
our only way out, yeah.
The only benefit is England are collapsing with almost as regularity
they're not much
as
chop
we are.
Either. Yeah.
And if, Warner, if he's ever going to win Australians back, he needs a few double centuries in this test.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to come out. Yeah,
you just pray Smith's back for the fourth.
Yeah,
like another draw.
I think. You'd have to think, unless it's really severe concussion.
Yeah,
you'd have to think Steve Smith will be back.
But
for the
concussion's weird because if you watch the NHL regularly, and they have quite a strong protocol on concussions. Some players can be out half the season with concussion.
Oh, exactly.
Like they really, you can be out a long, long time. Yeah. Like it can be, so he could be back by the fourth test, but it could not play again.
Or it might be next summer.
A couple of months, which does worry me. Jared Ruffhead announced his retirement, obviously, but he also had a nice send-off on the weekend.
He did have a nice send-off, didn't he? I mean,
he kicked 6.
A lazy 6. He probably should have kicked 8 or 9.
It was against the Gold Coast.
I was about to say, I mean, it'd be fair to say he probably wouldn't have kicked 6 in his farewell game if they'd been playing Richmond or West Coast.
Well, you look at it too and you go, he's been playing the VFL, so playing the Gold Coast is actually a step down. It's
like he's gone back to play against the Oakley Chargers.
So it was like, it just reminds me though that Hawthorn have this knack of, fairy tale finish.
Yeah.
For one of their club heroes. Will it happen? Yes, his 6 goals. Yeah. Although I think he's going to play this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think...
Clarkson said it would be like shooting Bambi to not have him back this year.
But I think Clarkson sort of came out last night and suggested that he is going to shoot Bambi.
Right.
In that Ruffy probably won't be playing this week. Because
I like how he says it would be like shooting Bambi, and then just to set it up so he can say, and I will am the kind of guy that will shoot.
and I'll pull the trigger this Thursday.
I'll shoot Bambi in any other way anyway. We've said this before. He's probably the least sentimental guy in the AFL.
As I said, I don't reckon his kids even get Christmas presents.
It is. We should mention before we move on. The finals are kind of going to be interesting, but I was watching. I mean, my favourite time of the year is when the AFL finals start in Melbourne. Like being in Melbourne, and the reason I say this, I know it's exciting in other parts of the country too, but why it's great in Melbourne is the long winter the weather starts to come good. So you start to feel less like
blue sky.
I wish I'd lived somewhere else. I know people in Perth and WA and even Sydney are going, that's how our winter is. I don't why we live in Melbourne. And then they sometimes, I get to this time of the year and I think they've got a very fair point.
Oh, yeah.
But you get into that spring in Melbourne with the footy going into finals. Yeah. Everyone's excited about it. The weather starts to be nice.
September in Melbourne is,
and then you get into the spring carnival.
Then there's the spring carnival.
It's just this great time of year where you suddenly, it's like that end of the horrible dark winter months is amazing. So when I watched Richmond West Coast and Brisbane Geelong, I thought if the finals are anything like this, we're in for the best September ever, because those two games on the weekend were just...
you're right,
They had everything.
And then on the other side of the coin, Friday night you watch Melbourne versus Sydney and you go, geez, they're a fair way off the pace. Are they not?
Oh, well, this is where I went.
You compare the game.
Well, I went to that game.
The Melbourne-Sydney. Oh, no, I just sat at home. And
I went to a few. I went to Melbourne-Sydney. I went to Collingwood-Adelaide in Adelaide. And then I went to Richmond-West Coast.
Yeah.
And going to the MCG on the Friday night and the Sunday and seeing the complete... It's like comparing a prep recorder recital on the Friday night and then seeing the Berlin Philharmonic on the Sunday. It was like a different sport.
Yeah.
There was a competency.
There's no question.
The players looked like they wanted to be there on the Sunday. There was a competency. There was hitting targets. And that was an epic game. If that was the grand final...
Oh, it was an absolute cracker.
I mean, I'm not... the other thing I think that came out of that is Richmond... And people were saying, oh, the rain saved Richmond. I don't think that's true. Richmond were coming back before that. But it shows that both of those teams, it's different in the season. You have odd results because it's a long season. But in finals, it's that thing where people talk about their brand standing up, which I always hate the term brand. But Richmond and West Coast, they both have the key backs, the key forwards, great midfields. They got everything you need to win in a final. When they're up. And either of those teams could win the premiership.
Yeah, and they generally, I mean, there's always the odd exception, but they tend to deliver in the finals too.
That's right.
And that's what good sides do.
And West Coast can play the MCG really well. So that idea they can't travel sort of went away last year. They travelled really well last year and this year. So you look at it and go... West Coast could win. If you played that game 3 times, West Coast would have won one or two of them. They were unlucky in some ways.
Watching those games, the Richmond West Coast grand final, you'd happily take it.
Oh, yeah.
And even the Geelong Brisbane. I mean, Brisbane not getting ahead of themselves, but are they playing above themselves, or are they going to find out? Finals are a different ball game.
If we look at
the way they're playing, you go, tell you what, you wouldn't write them off.
So if we look at the top 8, I'll just bring up. But I reckon Brisbane are on top. My view of Brisbane is who knows how far they could go. They're
ever since the Bulldogs,
they've won 8 in a row though. So the only thing is you go, won the pressure of finals and they've been up for a long time. Could that count against them? But at the same time, we've got no proof that they won't be able to do that.
And they've got the double chance either way.
Yeah, and they've won on the road. They've done all these sort of things. So I think Brisbane, totally possible. The Cats, you kind of feel that
of the
they've gotten they're of the top 4, they're weirdly the weakest. But they've shown they can also.
They can do it. They just haven't been impressive enough at all the last.
I feel like they
5-6
really.
weeks.
They started off the first half of the year, they were just untouchable to the rest of the comp. then they massively dropped off. And I feel like they've just started to come back up in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And you sort of wonder, is that they're gonna come back up and return to what they were like?
Yeah.
So they're definitely positive. The Eagles, I think, especially if they can finish in the top 2, and get a home game, I think they're obviously a massive chance. Richmond have shown they're a massive chance.
Yep.
The Pies could do anything in a way. Like, you don't know they get Jaden Stevenson back.
Yeah.
They get a few
They seem to have still delivered Collingwood, even with their injury list.
I wouldn't want to play Collingwood because they seem to always they seem to never just give up, or they keep going. So if you have an off day, I think Collingwood could beat you.
And their big, their non-big names still seem to deliver. Yeah. Blokes like Mychek and Crisp and these guys.
So I think Darcy Moore is.
I think he might be back this week.
Might be back, and then you get Jaden Stevenson very fresh off a 10-week rest. Yeah. So that could be huge.
And they'll get Degoe back for the first week of finals.
Yeah. Then you got GWS. I think they're one of the flakiest. Yeah. GWS and Essendon are the 2 flakiest in the
They're making up the numbers, surely.
To me,
and yet GWS, a month or 2 ago, you'd be backing them home in top 4, top 3 at least.
My doubts about GWS is I've seen them play live a couple of times in recent weeks, and just like in Canberra against Hawthorn was just embarrassing. There was no. They've got an enormous amount of injuries, but on top of that, the spirit just wasn't there. So you never know, but I don't think Essendon are a bit the same. Like you get the Essendon you saw last week or the week before, And I think against the top sides of these teams
in a final, then you're going to struggle.
You put them up against an Eagles or at home or a Richmond on the MCG, and you wouldn't exactly be. No. And the Giants also have that terrible record at the G. I think they've only beat Melbourne there in recent times. Then you got the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs to me are kind of like this little X factor now.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? They have to win in Ballarat on Sunday and against Adelaide, which is very doable against Adelaide.
Yeah. Oh, no question. I mean, they could easily, the Bulldogs, just keep marching along and just win, just keep winning. So they win a couple more, they're knocking on the door of the big time again.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends whether this is the beginning of an upward swing for them or whether they've sort of like peaked a bit in there. So I don't know about them. I mean, they to me are the most unknown quantity. Then I look at currently sitting 9th is, and so these are all, I think all the teams in here are subject to other results and percentages. Yeah. So Hawthorn, Adelaide and Port Adelaide are the 3 that could possibly break in. They would need the Bulldogs to lose, and then it would come down to each of them either winning or them all lose, and percentage. So I look at that and I go, Hawthorn, they're not going to... This is where I think the wild card round is a dumb idea, right?
Yeah.
Because you're getting beyond the top 6, you would cut out... If you just did a top 6, you'd cut out Essendon and the Bulldogs. Now, you could say, Western Bulldogs are coming fast and probably been a bit better. But overall, you look at that...
But you'd also say, I mean, they should have won more at the start of the season if they wanted to be
but you look at the top 5 and you go Lions, Cats, Eagles, Tigers, Pies. Very solid.
Yeah.
All of them... I know the Pies have had injury problems and stuff, but very solid, and the percentages all reflect that. You then got the Giants, who were very good early in the year, have had a lot of injury problems. So, you can understand them thinking. You get to Essendon and the Bulldogs. Have they been amazing? Not really.
No.
Then, Western Bulldogs have had a nice little run, but they won. They lost only a couple of weeks ago in a game they should have won.
And as you say, Essendon, they can be on fire one week and just appalling the next.
Yeah, I mean, the way they got belted 2 weeks ago is like, it doesn't make you think. Then you look and go, so this is my argument about, like, so you could make the idea of a wildcard round, you could argue 7 and 8 shouldn't even really be in there.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Like, it could be a top 6, I know TV rights and money is what changes this. Then you look at it and go, and this idea of a wildcard round, Hawthorn, the Crows and Port Adelaide, like, would you argue any of them really deserve a chance?
In a wild card, in a sort of like a
if this was the end of the season, I know there's only one round left and one of them could sneak in, but I think Bulldogs will probably beat Adelaide. Tex Walker came out this week and said, well, we've shown we can beat anyone anywhere. And I was like, When?
Yeah,
Now, what sport was this? Yeah. It's the opposite of what you've been doing.
Yeah.
So I look at all that and I kind of go, this is why I've always just thought the wildcard round is a bit...
It's just not it's just a dumb idea.
So, I don't know, do you think the Bulldogs are going to sneak in? I mean, if the Crows beat the Bulldogs...
I would back Bulldogs heavily to beat Adelaide this week. I reckon Adelaide are on the slide.
How much do you reckon the Bulldogs wish they had this last game in at Docklands, not Ballarat?
Yeah, true. But, a game where they got everything to play for in a place like Ballarat is exactly when Adelaide just turn it up. And I reckon that's what will happen this week, and I reckon the acid will be right on Don Pike this time next week.
Yeah, if he doesn't get it there. Port Adelaide have been terrible. I can't see Port getting in.
No, they don't. They don't deserve to be there,
The Port have got the Dockers on Sunday night. It's the last game. So if the Bulldogs lose earlier in the week, then it'll be interesting because it will be then go down a percentage between the Crows and the Power.
But of course, the Dockers are having the stand-in coach, the temporary coach. So you know what's going to happen. They could be on fire.
It's in Adelaide though, so anyway, you never know what Port's going to shut. So that's sort of I just think it's kind of interesting. Talking about Port Adelaide apparently numerous Port Adelaide players, including Travis Boak, have been asked to roll over part of their salaries into the next financial year because of increasing financial pressure on the club. It's not about salary cap, apparently. It's about just their club's profit loss margin. So
why would that be?
Well, they obviously are not making as much money as they thought they would.
Yeah.
So they've asked to defer some of the payments. Now, what I wonder about this is, Boak said it's not like he's not being paid. He said there's no hit to my pay. Obviously, contracts are pretty personal, so I won't get into too much detail. But what from I sort of know, it happens across the league, adjustments and that. I'm still getting paid, so yeah, it's a deferment of sorts. Now, the thing I wonder is there's two things. One, it's not that common for profit and loss reasons. It's common for moving salary cap into moving parts of salaries into other reasons to free up salary cap space if you want to bring in a star. So I think Richmond players, a few did that to bring in Top Lynch. So that makes sense, and players are often willing to do that if they think it significantly
it's like
increases.
front-ended and back-ended contracts for all that same
Yeah, that's right.
reason,
so moving, But what I find interesting here is they're doing it for profit and loss reasons, not... Now, I don't know all the intricacies. Maybe they've got money coming in that's budgeted coming next year, so they're going to be in a better position next year, so that's why it makes sense. I'd be interested to know whether Boak and the other players are getting interest
on their deferred salary.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
You'd think their agents would be on this.
Yeah.
But money in the hand is worth
as
more than money down the track.
Especially agents. Agents would be going, hang on, I was banking on getting 10% of your money this year.
I'm trying to buy my holiday out.
Yeah.
You're doing this. So that's interesting, though, that Port are in that position.
Yeah, and as you say, the profit and loss, it's not like they're probably that skint that they desperately need this money, but it's obviously fairly serious for them to be going down this path.
Well, I think it shows, and this is the thing
what happened to, Kochi? I thought he was the financial
you think
master.
Get the cash cow in.
Yeah, well...
Put the cash cow on the board.
Kochi used to write books and stuff about
how to manage
Well,
maybe that's
money.
what they're doing. I mean, it could be that there's something going on, which is interesting because they just refuse to comment on it, Paul.
Yeah.
But like if they said, no, all it is, we've got some... Financially, we're fine. It's just we've got more money coming in next year. So if we move it to there, it flattens things out a bit for us or something. But they haven't said that. But it shows you why they need China.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing about China to me. I've spoken to people at Port Adelaide about this, and it makes them a lot of money. And they're competing against the eastern states who have much bigger markets and sponsors and all this. If people just said, China is about money and enabling us to compete with the eastern states, we're not saying we're going to win and conquer China. People would go, fair enough.
Fair enough. And they wouldn't be the first business to do business in China purely to make a buck. No, nobody else does it.
I totally understand why they're doing it.
The joint's a dump. There's no other reason you do it.
Don't you find this as interesting with the AFL where they spin even when they don't need to spin?
Yeah.
And I've always said this about international rules. If you said, look, this is a reward for our top 20 players every year. It's a whether you call it a junk or not, it's a reward because we don't have an international component.
Yeah.
So this is a chance for them all to get together, spend time like any an All-American All-Star team would normally.
They're all competitive beasts, so they like putting on the jumper with Australia on it.
Yeah, and we get to send them over to Ireland, and maybe we send them through New York, and it's a reward, and it gives everyone goes, oh, fair enough. Yeah. But when they sort of go, not a junket, this is a great sport, we're really building it. Everyone goes, really?
You're taking it to the world. Port Adelaide's
Now, one thing that being at the game, the reaction was amazing. Jack Riewoldt, when he took, there was a couple of marks there, and the studs up rule came in, the new one, which is really the Toby Green.
Yeah, the reaction to the Toby Green boot in the face. There's the boot in the face, and there's one where he sort of kicked in the side. Yeah, he stuck his foot right out. So there's. The thing here is the Riewoldt one was very different, where it was basically they're saying, they've changed the rule. So, which I've never seen the AFL react with such speed on almost anything. Yeah.
It was like
literally the next day.
Yeah. My theory is it's because Matthew Richardson called for it. And everyone loves Richo. So they went, oh, we better do it.
We better do it. Don't want to upset Richo.
But it is amazing that these marking contests, I mean, even this is where... I just find it amazing that this was just. I think it was Adam Simpson even said when he watched it. He said, I thought it was a really good mark. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So even the opposition coach is saying this.
But it just goes to show how hopeless the AFL are to have even created this new rule because of Toby Green.
Yeah.
Without thinking it through, and without using the slightest bit of what Damien Hardwick described as common sense.
Yeah.
So many of these rules which they try and turn into black and white. I mean, you cannot turn those shades of grey into black and white like the AFL think you can.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just added a little bit of common sense to the mix, play on.
But basically, it's a contact sport, and you've always been allowed to you're not allowed to push in the back, but you're allowed to jump all over a guy's back as long as you take the mark. That's always been the kind of...
I mean, technically, if you take like a huge specky with your knees on a guy's shoulder, it's round the neck. I mean...
That's right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a bunch of... Jeremy Howe, I mean, you say every one of his marks of the year were probably technically in the back or around the neck.
Yeah.
But you're not going to pay that, are you? Because it was such a magnificent
No, because
leap.
when you're in a marking situation, it's a different...
Yeah.
What Toby Green was doing was putting the foot out well before the marking contest started, and it was to block a player.
And create a bit of free space for himself.
Well, that's what I mean. It was to block a player to create space, but it was in the side, and he'd put his foot up way too early, basically not allowing the opponent to compete. Which is what they were trying to do more. It was more an obstruction thing than it didn't matter whether it was in the back so much. I don't know. It was a bit of an overreaction to the green thing too, because it wasn't like, in the 100+ years of the game, it happened once or twice, and they suddenly went, let's change all the rules.
Yeah, it's not like he killed anybody.
No, he more did that at nightclubs. Now, you watched the Melbourne Darts.
Now, we
talked about the Melbourne Darts.
We mentioned this last week, and I was just flipping around Foxtel on the weekend and saw a couple of blokes pinging darts at a thing, and then I saw the super on the screen, Melbourne Masters Darts.
So it was on TV?
It was on TV. It was televised. And I've got to say, you look down, you could see the competitors up on the stage, and of course you had a little close-up of the dartboard when the darts go in. But then you could see...
I like how you clarify that, where the darts go, for those of you not familiar with darts.
But you could see all the crowd down on the next level, and they're all sitting at, they're like those sort of long trestle table things that you see, army movies or
something,
and stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody looked like they were having a good time.
Really?
Until someone pointed out that you weren't allowed to drink.
What?
At the darts. You couldn't order a drink.
Is that because of what happened last time?
And apparently it's exactly the reason.
So were there 4 people there?
No, there were still plenty of blokes there. No women. They're far too smart than to be dragged along to the darts on a Sunday afternoon. But there are all these blokes just sitting there bored senseless. And I'm thinking, of course you'd be bored. You're sitting there. You're 50 metres from the dartboard. You can only watch it on the big screen.
Yeah.
You can't even order a beer. It just looked like the worst afternoon you've ever been to.
I cannot believe that. You can't drink at the darts.
No, that was what I was told.
That's the only reason you would go to the darts.
Why would you go? Yeah, why wouldn't you go, And did you see all the competitors in the darts now, they're all dressed like characters from an Avengers movie. There's a bloke with the green mohawk. He called himself Snakebite. Did you see him? Snakebite. If he was one of those snakes that after you get bitten, you swell up to 3 times the normal size of a human.
All the guys in darts, it's like it is like that, isn't it? It's like all the nicknames are like hilarious because they'll go like the tornado, and there's this guy that looks like he could die of a heart attack any moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the tornado going head to head with morbidly obese. Winner takes all.
Drunk guy at the bar. That's basically like. I can't believe there's no drinking. I'm in genuine shock.
Yeah, no, so was I, and I was sitting there thinking. Before I knew this, I'm thinking, look, I really hope there's an all-in brawl like there was last year at Etihad Stadium.
Yeah,
I want to see plastic chairs get thrown.
It's a bit like car racing, isn't it? You watch for the crashes.
Yeah,
and I kind of think darts, you watch for the all-in brawl. If they've gotten rid of that,
and it's not even it's not even a great spectator sport when you just see these fat blokes over and over going the 20, the double 20.
Yeah.
The 120. And you think, oh, mate, get this off. Get this off. Give me
so you won't be a darts ambassador anytime soon?
No.
Listeners' questions. Matthew Stapleton wrote in, with the axing of AFLX, Carlton winning and Ross Lyon being sacked, do you think someone is trying to sabotage your comedy career? Appreciate him calling it a career.
Yeah. And
it's the biggest compliment.
And inserting the word comedy again. That's making a huge assumption too.
I got to say, I do feel a bit like that at the moment. Thank God for Melbourne.
Yeah, I was about to say, at least we've still got Melbourne.
Yeah, people often say to me, do you ever worry what will happen to you if Melbourne become good? And I'm like, I never worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about something that you can't change,
Oh, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen, I think your comedy career, for want of a better phrase, is safe for at least the next 10 years.
You're based on the way this season it is. Matt Anderson wrote in, when Gold Coast inevitably fold, will Melbourne retroactively be awarded the 2019 wooden spoon? Can we give Port the 2011 one too?
Well, there's a couple of things there, Matt. I think you meant retrospectively rather than retroactively.
Oh, you did say retroactively.
Yeah, but... when Gold Coast inevitably fall, no, you can't do that.
But do you know my theory? Well, not my theory. My realisation the other day is thinking back a bit when this is how foolish I once was. When Gold Coast and all that got all those draft picks, and Melbourne were getting number 1 draft picks around that time, I was thinking, well, this is just typical. Like, one time we might rebuild and actually have a chance. We'll get to the best team we'll ever have because, this is before they all turn out to be absolute flops.
Yeah.
And we'll miss out on a premiership because of these expansion teams. That was how I used to think.
Yeah.
And now I realise that actually these expansion teams have prevented us winning some wooden spoons, not premierships, because Melbourne really, to me, won the wooden spoon this year because I just do not count Gold Coast as an AFL side.
As a team, yeah.
They're an academy for other teams.
Yeah, exactly.
To raid every now
right.
and then.
Exactly right.
It's like you go to college before starting a job. They send our top talent up to the Gold Coast for 3 years to have, a bit of fun, and then they come, all right, time to start your real career.
Yeah, now you've spent 2 years in the gym. Now come back down to a decent side,
Trevor Foy said, what's more painful, being struck by a Jofra Archer bouncer or having to watch a Melbourne game?
Difference here, though, Trev, is that you will recover from the concussion of a Jofra Archer bouncer far sooner than there's any chance of Melbourne,
I would have loved someone to concuss me in the middle of Friday's game. That would have.
I must admit, it was just terrible to watch.
Oh, terrible. Anyway, almost over. We're almost there. We're not even really going to. I found myself looking at what time because Melbourne play North on Saturday in Tassie. I think 2 p.m.
What an irrelevant.
I found myself going on checking the time because I was trying to work out what I'm doing this weekend. I was like, what are you doing with your life, mate? Like, I seriously had questions about myself.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
I will watch it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Like, there is no good that will come out of that game.
It'll be just a dull dud game. And Melbourne's like, some player will do an ACL or something, so that he'll miss all of next year. Yeah, or Max Gawn or Clayton Oliver will do a knee.
I know. I almost don't play anyone.
Yeah, don't play any of your good players.
Well, the only thing that makes me not too concerned about them being any injuries is the half-assed nature they played on Friday.
Yeah.
There was a couple that tried, like Gawn, he got injured towards the end. He had hamstring twinge and stuff, and a couple others. Nathan Jones has never taken a day off, but a lot of the rest of them, I was like, mate, there's people in the stands yelling at you, working harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we need to give away a book. I'm still sending a few out, so if you won in the last few weeks and haven't got one yet, don't worry. I like Gary Stone's.
I was about to say.
Did Ross get all defensive when told he was getting the sack?
Yeah, no, gets my vote.
So this Sunday, Comics Lounge, if you're in Melbourne.
Yeah, come along. We'd love to see you.
Come on down. It's in the afternoon, and I'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of fun, a few laughs, a couple of buckets of Coronas, possibly.
To give away. So it should be good fun. The last few we've done of live podcasts have been a lot of fun. I'm also in Adelaide. We're recording this on a Wednesday, so I'm on Adelaide Thursday night at the Arca Bar.
Tomorrow night.
At the Arca Bar. There's a few tickets left. Selling pretty well in Adelaide, which I was always worried because you've
got a big following in Adelaide,
but also the way
I've tried to sabotage that over the years, but
I know,
you seem to still.
But the way the teams are going, I was a bit worried they wouldn't want to hear anything about football. I've also got gigs coming up in Sydney over the next few weeks, and Perth. Perth one's selling really well, so if you want to come and see me in Perth, that's I think that's later in the that's in. I can't remember the exact date, but that's coming up. So I'll put the link to all these, and also Brisbane and Hobart.
Oh,
so all happening. So it should be good fun. I did Canberra the other night, and that was a great gig. The people there were.
You're like Hugh Jackman.
It's exactly
Titus O'Reilly, the man.
Close your eyes and it's
the
almost
show.
Close your eyes and
the
it's almost
scam.
The exact same. It's almost the exact same show. Amazing. I've actually meant to talk to you about poaching a lot of my best stuff. So that should be a lot of fun. So Arca Bar tomorrow night, which is Thursday, 22nd of August, on at 8 p.m. And I love the Arca Bar. It's always
it's a ripping joint, the Arca Bar.
It's always fun there. It's got a looseness to it.
And no matter where you look around there, you suddenly expect to hear the choir boys belting out "Run to Paradise."
And we're on at 2:00 on Sunday at the Comics Lounge.
Just a lazy Sunday afternoon. Come down, have a couple of beers, and away we go.
Yeah, nothing better than that. I'll just give you the dates quickly. Sydney, 30th of August. I'm at the Comedy Store. I'm at the Octagon Theatre in Perth on the... Let me get this right. What date is that? That is on Saturday, 31st of August. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That one's selling really quickly. So thank you, Perth. 12th of October in Hobart at Joker's Comedy Club, which I've done before, and we had a great night that night. And Sit Down Comedy Club up in Brisbane on the 19th of October. So that'll be good. So I'll put the link to all those. But this Sunday, our live podcast. So if you would want to come along to that should be fun and watch Serge down a few buckets of Corona in real time. And
can't wait.
And we'll see if any more coaches have been sacked by then.
Well, who knows? It's
we could have another few. We'll see you then. Cheers.